Greetings everyone, this is Wayoff, and today we will be looking at the Tupolev TB-3, which is a Tier 1 gift bomber that was handed out for the War Thunder Christmas events. Now I've already done a first impression on this aircraft before I did the Skyrocket review, and I have to admit I was pretty snarky about it at the time, I think because I was not happy with the way the event had turned out. And after I did the Skyrocket review, I kind of wanted to give this plane a second go-around. As a short history lesson, the TB-3 is supposedly the first 4-engine cantilever-winged bomber. It was produced, it started in 1932, so very much pre-war. By the time the war came around, it was actually pretty obsolete, even though it remained in service virtually throughout. And it was actually used as part of the Zveno project, which was an attempt to create a carrier mothership type aircraft that would carry smaller monoplane fighters a set distance before releasing them onto their targets. It was actually, surprisingly, it was a successful plan, and it was executed in combat at least once to reasonable effect. Now, as for the aircraft in War Thunder, especially in arcade mode, this is probably one of the slowest bombers in existence. It usually hangs around 172 kilometers an hour, which is not much at all, even for other Tier 1 bombers. So this thing is slow, and it doesn't maneuver that well, and it's very capable of stalling out in any sort of banks or turns. Now, on the good side of things, the gunner coverage is actually pretty superb. With the 3 topside gunners, you can get all 3 of them to fire a beam of the aircraft in both directions very easily. And you actually have underwing coverage with 2 dustbin positions, one on either wing. So it actually has a fairly good coverage of fire for defensive purposes. Now, the good news about its speed is that it's also a very stable bomb platform. It usually has no problem being fairly accurate in targeting at low and, to some degree, high altitude. I've found at high altitude, though, the bombs can drift slightly. But certainly at low altitude, even up to like 1,000 meters, you're pretty accurate with your bomb load. And this thing has a ton of bombs. I believe it's around 12 250 kilogram bombs. That's the setup I'm using right now. You can have 500 kilograms on there as well, or just a stack of 100 kilogram bombs. If you want ground leveling firepower at Tier 1, this is going to be the plane for you, at least in that regard. And as you see again, we're coming into the bank here, and I'm taking it really slowly, because if I really try to push the issue, it's just gonna stall out on me. And that's one thing I've had to learn with this aircraft, is a tremendous amount of patience. Now, something I would like to point out for the purposes of landing. This aircraft does not have retractable landing gears at all. It actually has a set of bogies under each wing, 2 wheels on the bogie, and it has no brakes at all. So when you're putting this aircraft in, you have to already be slowing down before you hit the field. You cannot pull an emergency stop with this aircraft, because it will literally keep running down the field until it runs out of inertia. So as you can see here, I'm cutting the throttle way early, and the plane also loves kicking from side to side when I'm trying to land at these low speeds. And even after it hits the ground here, it will take some time to slow down. Again, there are no brakes. You need to account for this ahead of time, or else you will consistently run off whatever airfield you're trying to land on. Here we are on ground strike Berlin suburbs, I believe. And as this is an arcade match, this bomber starts at around 5,000 meters up, along with the rest of the bombers that spawn. And this really helps contain a massive disadvantage of the plane, which is its abysmal climb and dive rate. Accompanying with its really slow speed, it just cannot climb or dive at anything faster than it can dive at around 300 kilometers per hour, and at climb you can barely get this thing up 20 degrees before it wants to just stall out on you. So you'll be up for a long climb if you have to start from the airfield. Now I have gone ahead and sped this recording up to twice normal speed, because at an average speed of 175 kilometers an hour, it's going to be a while before I reach even the first ground targets. It usually takes me about 6 to 7 minutes to get this bomber over the first lot of targets. And I already mentioned something about bomber drift when I was running this plane around the practice area. But actually, at high altitude, the problem is a bit more severe than I initially stated. And this is true of a lot of bombers, especially the ones with multiple bombs, is that you'll see the plane rock back and forth as you launch the bombs. As you saw right there, I launched a small cluster, and the plane shimmied from side to side. Essentially, if you drop all your bombs at once, I have actually seen bombs on this plane just scatter out, like in a huge shotgun burst. Here, we're probably not going to see that happen. I only launched a few at a time, pretty close together. Good carpet bomb on a bunker. We took it out. Not a huge contribution to the team. Now, with drift and speed being a huge issue for this plane, obviously the static targets are going to be your best friends with this bomber. And with a loadout of up to 12 250 kilogram bombs, or you can carry 500s with this, I believe, you are in a prime position to wipe out low-tier base targets with little effort at all. It usually only takes about one pass at low tier to take out a base with this plane. Of course, with your slow speed, there's a really good chance that if you have other bombers on your team, they're already going to have wiped it out before you even got there. And as you can see, we are approaching a base target right now with a full load, which I've just proceeded to drop on the target before I bank away, watching as my aircraft stalls when I try to bank out like that. And the other problem, I've gotten there, and there it is, the zone's destroyed. But it's taking me so long to get the bomber over that target that our team was already at a severe deficit by the time I got there. And here I'm trying to dive with the aircraft, because I feel like the only way I can really affect a change at this point is to come in low over the next target. It doesn't take me so long to line up and aim if I'm at a lower altitude, but it takes too long to even do that. I'm afraid that is it for the gameplay footage with the TB-3, mainly because that run on the Berlin ground strike map kind of showcase the biggest problems I have with the aircraft right then and there, and why I don't really use it at all. It has a great bomb load, but it's so slow and it just can't maneuver. It was shown in the quick look video I did for it a while ago that even with all those guns, it's severely vulnerable with such a poor speed and poor maneuverability, and really poor crew protection because it's all open topped. It's hard to justify using that aircraft when it's in the presence of very, very good Tier 1 Soviet bombers. Like right here is one of the 4 SB-2 bombers that you get as Tier 1 in the Soviet Air Force. This is the last one in the series. And This thing has everything the TB-3 honestly needs to be competitive. It's smaller, it's more maneuverable, it turns really well, and it still has a reasonable bomb load. I mean, these bombers can carry up to two 500 kilogram bombs. That's some serious firepower they can dish out, and in a much smaller, more maneuverable package. Another aircraft that you will be seeing after this that is, if anything, better, especially if you want to get ready for using the IL series aircraft, is the Su-2 or the BB-1s. They are impeccable ground attack aircraft. They have a reasonable bomb load, especially after you've leveled them up, and they are maneuverable enough to dogfight on a limited basis. They also have forward armaments that are controlled by you. They give you far more options and far more versatility than the TB-3 can. And that may sound like a bad thing in a way, but in the long run I don't think it is. And the reason why is that it stems back to an argument I had earlier with the events, that the aircraft they were handing out would have been nicer, not necessarily as jokes, but fun little alternatives. I did not want the events to become something that gave the winners like this massive advantage on the field. I thought it kind of took the fun out of it, and that's how it was portrayed, is you're going to get these ultra powerful aircraft or ultra rare aircraft. And at least first when it was the XF-5F, I was a little worried that it's like, oh, these planes are going to be super overpowered, stuff like that. And this is one time where I really like wargaming system when it comes to gift stuff, because most of their gift tanks they're goofy. I mean, they're sometimes useful at tier 1, or tier 2, which is where they pretty much all sit. But they're overall just goofy, quirky tanks. It's like, wow, look at this crazy tank we found. Look at this Vickers with this 50 caliber machine gun, you know, go run that out. It's just a fun tank to play, or it can be fun. And I kind of like that the TB-3 kind of follows that mold. It's a really quirky bomber, and it's really tactically handicapped, but it's just kind of a fun thing to ride around in once or twice. You look at this, honestly, I don't want to say fossil, but it's a very interesting aircraft to have on the field, because you can kind of see what they took from it to get to a lot of modern bombers, and what they left behind. Like all the open-topped crew positions, I'm pretty sure that was high on the list to get rid of. So overall, especially, I don't even want to know how that plane would handle in historical, to be honest. I don't want to see that, because I think its climb and dive rate would be so abysmal that just taking off and landing in that aircraft would kill you, because it would take you twice as long to get up to altitude. So, if you're playing arcade and you want to play seriously at tier 1 and you have this plane, don't bet on it. Count on it to be just a fun little joke aircraft that you pull out every once in a while, have a few laughs in, maybe bomb on a few bases, and then move on. That is it for today. Tune in next week where we will be having a World of Tanks video, hopefully, of some description. Until then, good luck out there. Now, as I bring the plane in, it doesn't have brakes. It only has the 2 bogies one on either wing. So you have to kind of cut the throttle early if you want to land right, but I think I did it too early. Oh dear. Well, that went well. Shame about those dustbin gunners, I suppose. Although knowing the way this model was put together, they're probably in the ground, still rendered, just staring up.